So it's another afternoon for me in the shop here. Obviously, from the last bits and pieces, I've been mulling over what to do with this cabinet. It's obviously got my batteries in it. I was contemplating turning it around, putting inverters on the back here, and then the controllers and stuff on the side. I decided that I should probably do things a little bit better than that. Considering I've got to do 240-volt wiring, and I should put breakers and earth leakage and stuff properly and isolators in there, I decided to get another cabinet. So this one should sit on top of this one. The challenge I've got is this one is 600 wide and this one apparently is 600 wide. This one's got a bit of a lip on it, so I don't know whether when I build this whether it'll actually fit inside that lip or whether I'm going to have to put something on it. So that's what I'm going to do. The other thing I've got to do now, because I'm changing this around, I'm going to take the wheels off so I can sit on the ground. So I'll sit over there where it was before, up against the wall, up against that little short wall there. So I'll do it that way, so that I can put the controllers and the isolators and the inverters in the new box. And then I'll just put the batteries in here, and then what I'm going to do, I'll just change locations a bit. So the box is going to sit here with the other cabinet sitting on top of it going up here. And then what I'm going to do is put this as a base, and then I'm going to build some shelves here for other things. I'm going to remove this one because it's wider, so you can see the brick wall sort of is here, and then there's this overhang. So I've already pulled this off. It was very professionally put down with some liquid nails and a bit of masonite. So okay, well done. The other thing I'm going to do is I had this switch bank at the other shop. This switch doesn't work at all, and one of these other two was being a bit intermittent. So this one's gone by the wayside for now. When I bought a heap of panels and batteries and stuff, Kings gave me this. I can't remember if I actually paid for it, if it was one of those deal things, but either way, I'm going to use that now. So I can put, so obviously it's got USB charger, it's got cigarette lighter type sockets on it, and then it's also got a couple of Andersons, so I can run my stereo and other things off that. So instead of having the other switch bank, I'm going to use this one now. So next thing to do is get the batteries out of here, take the wheels off, and then build the other cabinet that's over there. So the other thing I'm going to do is I've got this little, this is just the back that it came in. It's a small white box, but it's actually a 4-way remote control. So this way I can use the relays in here to trigger my big relays to drive the inverters on and off. Funny enough, it just so happens that I've got 4 inverters, so I've got 4 remote controls here. So I've just got to figure out putting those in and making sure that I put the relays that I'm using, the contactors rather, are a bit, they tend to get a bit warm, so I've got a fan. I'm just going to make sure I keep them cool with it. So yeah, we'll do this bit first, and then build the other cabinet and put it on and hope that it fits within the 2 lips that are on this one. Otherwise, I just have to do something else. So I'll pull these batteries out. Alright, again, not going to bore you with me putting it together. I'll just put it together and then show you the finished product, and then we'll figure out how we go about putting it on top of the other one. So, one cabinet. I didn't put the shelf in this one because I want the maximum amount of space to be able to manipulate and move stuff around in here. So this time this one's just plain and empty. Alright, so now we'll bring in the other cabinet and we'll see what my luck's going to hold like as far as putting this one on top is concerned. So here's the cabinet, lower cabinet, and comes the upper cabinet. So it just sticks up by the width of the actual lip on this one, which is a bit frustrating, but I anticipated that. So basically just means I'm going to have to put some, like a foot or a base of some sort on this, just to make it stand up properly. So I'll contemplate that for a moment and we'll get into it. So, found a suitable piece of wood. So the thickness of this piece is the same height as the lip on this. So I'll start trimming it down so that it can sit in there. What I'll do is there's these screws here for holding the top on, so I'll just reuse those holes to hold it, and I'll probably just put another bolt, screw a bit further down here as well, just to hold it all in place. And then I'm still going to have to drill holes for cables to go through these, so I'll just do that at the same time once I've got it all together. One piece of wood, one cabinet. That'll sit there okay. Now I've just got to drill the holes in the bottom of that piece of wood. So I've got the 4 holes marked. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'll do is I'll drill those, make sure I've actually got them lined up, because there's every chance that I won't. So I can actually see screw heads through all of those holes. Amazing. Okay, so hopefully I've managed to drill those holes in the right spot. I'll just take these other ones out now and find some suitable replacements. Okay, so I've gone for these pan head ones, so that way the profile of the screw head is nice and low. They've still got plenty of bite to go through the metal once it goes into the bottom cabinet. So there should be plenty of length there plenty of bite there to hold it together. So we'll screw those in and see how we go. So somehow I managed to underestimate how much length I needed on these screws. I thought I'd only need like 20 mil. So I've got these 30 mil screws, and I've just tested one to make sure it actually fits through the hole and actually gets into where it's got to go to. They're not as ideal as these ones because they're a cup head, which is a bit of a pain. But then the other problem is that on the other side on this inside part of the cabinet here, the screw hole is right up against part of the cabinet, so these screws are going to be better for that. So we'll put those in instead. That's gone together okay. The only thing I've probably got to do now is just put a couple more screws down here and bolt them through to this bottom plate here as well. So a couple of roofing screws later, and that's all now mostly bolted together. So now I can start figuring out where I'm going to put inverters and stuff in here. I think because this side is going to be across for the solar coming in, I'll put all the 12 volt stuff this side, and then we'll try and fit all the 240 volt stuff this side. Wish me luck. So after a bit of navel gazing, I've decided that I'm going to put these inverters like this. So this one has got an offset positive and negative, which is really good, because then I've got no issues with the cables ever touching each other. And then I'll just punch a hole straight through the bottom of this one. The wood is here just representing the gaps. The wood's definitely not staying there. This one I'll have to do something, I don't know yet, just to make sure that it's going to turn. So because I've got plenty of space here, I might just push this one across here and make that cable go down there. Then power outputs out of both of these. So this one's got 2 outlets, this one's got 4. They're all joined together. So I'll possibly just run 1 out of this one and 2 out of this one. So I'll go through the circuit breakers and the earth leakage units here with a piece of DIN rail across here. And then I've got these power points that I'll put on the side here so that I can use them. I've also got this little one here, which I just use for generally running the lights or the battery chargers, which I'll screw up under there. And I've also, as I said, I've also got this 12 volt box, which I'm going to plug on the side here. So then I'll just run the 12 volt power off the top here and drop it down into the same system. So the other thing I've also got to make sure I do is put all of these contactors in, so that way I can remote control them all. So these should sit down the bottom here as well. There should be plenty of enough space for those to go. So we'll see how I go with running the cables up through the holes and stuff. So yeah, so now the batteries can go in so they can get hooked up. So at least I can start running the cables up through the holes, up through the bottom there. So I'll put a big, probably a 30 or 40mm hole through the bottom there. And then I've got these power points. These are recycled ones, obviously. So I just mount those up on the side so that when this goes where it's got to go, these will be out ready for me to actually access and use. So we'll get into it. So I have a nice big hole going down there. As you can see, so I think I drilled a 50mm hole. And while I was at it, I decided to drill one into this as well. So this is the shelf for the batteries down there. It made sense to drill that one while I was at it. Thankfully it went through nice and easily. So next thing I'll work up to is putting the inverters in here. So I'll measure them up. I'll probably just put the pieces of wood under there that I had before, because I think that was a fairly good height, just to give them, make sure there's some clearance around them. I haven't drilled a hole in the top of this yet. I've only got to run the solar through here, so I only need a small hole for that one. So I might do that first and then mount up the inverters. Okay, so this is the final sort of setup that I'm going to run with. So you can see that the positive and negative on the lower inverter there, they all just drop straight through the hole. This inverter has got side holes for venting, so that's why I've mounted it slightly higher. This one has left and right venting, but it's also got the positive and negative on the same plane. But I've checked and tested the cables, so they will bend that way. So I can just move. So I'll just move that one across a little bit. It misses the edge here of the mount for where the shelf was going to go. So I've just made sure of that. And then the other inverter will mount up under there still. I put a hole in the top for the solar cables to go in. So you can see my finger wiggling just in the middle at the top of the screen there. So that's where the solar panel cables are going to be coming in, and whatever other charging circuits I use. And they'll just drop again straight down into there. And obviously I'll have to bring one up and across the top for the accessory box that I'm going to put on the side of this one. So I'll just mount these up and then we should be good to go from there. So the only thing I've got to be careful of on this outside here is just making sure that I've got enough space for this box to sit, but also then the power points that I'm going to run. So after not too much huffing and puffing and winching about it, it's all mounted in there. They're a little bit, tiny bit loose, but that's because my socket isn't long enough to get on the nuts on this side. So I'll deal with that at a later stage. But now I can start running the cables from sort of there straight down into the hole. I haven't put this one in yet because I've got to do some fancy mounting, because this one's got no way of mounting. It's just kind of designed to sit there. So I had previously had some magic mounts made up for it, so I'll have to remake those so that I can put this back up. Once I figure out how I'm going to do that, we'll have another look at it. So I found some small brackets that'll do the inverter okay. So these are just tiny little L brackets here. So they'll just get one with a hole that I can actually see. No, stickers on them. There we go. One's actually got a hole in it from where I've obviously used it before. So all I'll do is I'll just screw those onto there, and that'll also give it a little bit of room to breathe because there's some breather holes under there. So I'll just put those both sides, and probably have to get some bigger screws in the end there. It'll just raise it up, and then I'll bolt it, as I said, up under there. Then after that, so I have 4 of these. I'm paralleling 2 each for the inverters. They do get a little bit warm when they run all the time, so I'm just also going to put a fan there. So when they are running, whichever one that's running, the fan will operate. On my previous setup, I just had 2 of these doing the parallel part for me. So I just cut that out of this piece of aluminium. So I'll just basically do the same, just cut it in half and drill the holes in there, and then that'll do my paralleling up for those. So a quick search of the old screw box found me those ones. They should be okay for doing what I've got to do here. Okay, so there's the 4 brackets on the bottom of that. So what I'm going to do is basically just mark the holes from this end and drill them out from here. So as you can see, we now have one upside down inverter hanging here, ready for, so this one is only going to be used for light stuff, as I said, so the battery chargers and lights, and that's about it. So moving on to down the bottom here, down there, where I've got the contactors to hook up. So I have my 4 contactor pieces of aluminium here, so they all just go on there and on there. So I'll just bolt those down with their respective pieces in there. Alright, so I found some fairly short, chunky screws to go in here. So at least they'll go straight through the metal, because the metal's really thin, but they'll be fairly chunky when they go into the into the plywood that's underneath that. I'm going to do each one individually, because that way I can line it up with the pieces of metal that I've cut and drilled already. So here we have our contactors. I'll have the power coming up from the batteries into here, into one side here, and then the other side will go up to each of the inverters, and then obviously power will come out of here. So the next thing I'll do is get these actually wired up with the cables going down into the hole for the batteries to hook up to. So this one is the positive for the lithium battery, which is going to go to the bottom white inverter, which is the higher output inverter, apparently. So the fuse is on the other end of this cable rather than on this end, just because it's easier to get to. So lucky me's managed to have a couple of moments here. So when I was putting these in, I've managed to cross thread this one, this is one of the ones that was in the previous shop. So I'm assuming that when I've pulled it apart, I've just had a bit of a moment when I've undone it, and it's now just decided to have a bit of a hissy fit, and it's now broken. So what I've ended up doing is just moving the 2 that were here into that spot there instead. I've got more on order to replace those ones. And what I've also managed to do is there's a bag of nuts and bolts and stuff, obviously with the contactor as well. I've managed to lose the other bag, so go me, but that's okay. We'll persevere. So I've just got to find a couple of washers, and I think I've got enough nuts here now. Okay, so what we've got now, a bit hard to see. So I've got the positive cable going into the inverter there, and then there's the negative one going down into the hole, straight down into where the batteries are going to go. So I've obviously now just got to drill a hole in the fence, in the shelf that's in the battery box, not at the moment. But that's obviously, you can see the cable down the bottom there. So thanks for hanging around in the shop with me again today. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe so you can follow along and come for the ride, and leave a comment down below and tell me how you think I should be setting it up if you don't agree with what I've done, and just say hello in general. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.